Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And here's your meme of the day, brought to you by 5mind.com. You know, forever the GOP has been branded as a party of cowards, the party that cares more about what the New York Times is going to write about them on Monday than what's actually right for their constituents, even though the New York Times is going to smear and slander them regardless. But you know, stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason. They were labeled this way for a particular reason because it's true, it's been true. But thankfully, since President Trump has showed up on the scene, one thing that I have to admit that has changed is that the Republican Party is starting to have some guts. And in the past, with a shutdown tactic like this, with the all-out pressure campaign being applied on Republicans right now, and it's not just from Democrats, it's not just Chuck Schumer, it's all the fake polls that are being released, and probably most importantly, it's the entire mainstream media apparatus being weaponized against the Republican Party to push Democrat talking points. Well, in this environment, you would expect the GOP to cave by now, especially 40 days into this thing. But this is not the same old neocon cowardly crew. No, this is something different, and what's beautiful to see is that this party is remaining resilient, they're standing up for themselves, they're not caving to the Democrats' demand, and most importantly, they're maneuvering. They're engaging in strategic politics, and I think in the end, they might just put themselves in a position to reap the rewards. Let me show you guys the latest maneuver, I guess we could say, from Markwayne Mullins, and of course I want to talk about some things. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so take a look at this. Here's Markwayne Mullin with his latest strategic proposal.
Votes, of course, you never know. Chuck Schumer's got handcuffs on him, so he's got to take the key and unlock the handcuffs for the Democrats to vote, and they'll quit using American people as leverage points. But I believe we'll get there, because keep in mind, Ag Bill also has a SNAP program, and it's going to be very, very difficult for them to vote against that.
I like it. I think it's smart. It's a whole lot better than caving to Schumer's pathetic ransom. And I think in the end, collecting all of these moments is what's important. You know, the Democrat Party pretends as if they're the party of empathy. Well, you know what? Then get on the voting record. This is maneuvering with intelligence. Propose a bill to protect farmers, to protect SNAP, and then let the Democrats expose themselves, because you know exactly what's going to happen, right? They're going to vote against it. This whole shtick of, oh, my SNAP benefits, my SNAP payments. Well, do what they do, tack it on to something else, or try to pass the bill now when they're trying to draw a line in the sand, pump their chest out as if they're in such a powerful position following the Mamdani, Mikey Sherrill, and Spanberger wins. I don't think they want to do it. They want the GOP to cave to their demands, and so put them on the frickin' record. Let them expose themselves. And look, I know last week's elections were a little bit of a shock to the system, and so you could very easily get cold feet, but this is a long game. And if Republicans cave right now, Democrats get the biggest win possible. They get an ad campaign, an unimaginably good ad campaign moving into 2026. The Republican health care crisis, wall to wall, right before the midterms. You simply cannot give it to them. And so instead, I think what the GOP is doing here is smart. They're harvesting receipts. Play the long game. Continue to collect. And just think about it. Moving into 2026, after all the damage has been done, after everything the Democrats did here, there's a whole lot of ammunition. Democrats shut down the government and gaslit the people, pretending as if it was Republicans doing it. They froze SNAP payments and then again pretended as if it was President Trump himself who cut SNAP benefits. Then, of course, as government was shut down, they voted against pay for essential workers during the shutdown. They also voted against a bill that would cut their own congressional pay while families were hurting and hungry. And on top of it, we've got a massive montage of Democrats bragging on camera that pain is their leverage. This is their leverage point.
We need to do this while we have the leverage.
Of course, there will be families that are going to suffer, but it is one of the few leverage times we have.
You reopen the government and we lose our leverage, there has to be an agreement right now. That's what this whole shutdown is about.
Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. Frankly, this is our only moment of leverage.
The idea that you would give up all of your leverage and then hopefully get some sort of great deal coming down the pike is just a fool's errand.
Why are working families the leverage the Democrats need to get Obamacare fixed?
It's the only lever we have.
Democrats have this one little sliver right now when we've got some leverage here.
And now Republicans can collect even more ammunition, as Democrats might just vote against farmers and SNAP benefits here. And all for what? That's the worst part of this whole ordeal. To continue this subsidy pipeline to big insurance companies? Oh, it just has to be done. It's an existential threat. You have to continue subsidizing these massive profits for insurance companies. Meanwhile, what Republicans are trying to do is a whole lot smarter and, again, tactical maneuvering, proposing a bill to put the money in the hands of the people so they can go and shop for their own insurance. I think it's becoming more clear day by day, especially as Democrats are continuously getting grilled. Look, I know we're not seeing the results just yet, but I think in the end, Democrats might overplay their hand. And it really all depends on what kind of campaign you run at the end of the day. And there is a whole lot of content here. Republicans can run a stellar campaign in 2026 if they hold the line, because it's obvious what Democrats are doing. First of all, there's the massive hypocrisy that's just endless here.
Republicans own every part of this government, and they own this shutdown.
Well, they don't own the Senate when it comes to 60 votes and getting to cloture. And by the way, that senator who said don't shut down the government over health care was Chris Murphy in 2013.
George, the best way to do it, and look, you were involved in a lot of these in the 90s, and you basically called the Republicans terrorists, and you said that it is not the responsible party that keeps the government closed. And so what we need is 5 brave, moderate Democratic senators to cross the aisle, because right now it is 52 to 3. 5 Democrats can cross the aisle and reopen the government. That's the best way to do it, George.
Exactly. This is the party that has previously equated government shutdowns to essential political terrorism. Not to mention, there's so many of these Democrats on the record claiming that you shouldn't shut down government, even for health care. And so government shutdowns are so irresponsible, but now here they are trying to push for the biggest government shutdown in American history. They're hypocrites. And with good campaigning, you can wake people up because it's obvious what they're up to. It's a sabotage campaign.
We have to get this government open. I mean, the fact is Goldman Sachs, they have a top economic team, and they're estimating that we've already knocked about 1.5% off of GDP. I think that number is probably low if we keep going even a couple more weeks, because there's going to be a massive amount of air disruption, especially around the holidays. And, one of these things every now and then when we're talking economics, you and I, we talk about seasonal adjustments and things like that. But the fact is that Thanksgiving time is one of the hottest times of the year for the economy. It's, Black Friday and all that kind of stuff. Right. And if people aren't traveling at that moment, then we really could be looking at a negative quarter for the fourth quarter.
That's exactly what it is. They want to sabotage President Trump. They know that his policies are successful. Prices are coming down. Energy costs are more affordable. Even tariffs seem to be working, which sounds a little bit counterintuitive if you buy into more legacy economic thinking. They can see the economic fundamentals being put in place, and they don't want to allow it to happen. They don't want President Trump to be successful. And so they would rather cause pain, sabotage, than allow the Trump mandate and agenda to continue. They're doing it on purpose. They want GDP to fall. They don't want President Trump to have strong job numbers and growth numbers. It's a burn it all down moment for the Democrat Party. Anything to stop the Trump agenda, to damage him. And Republicans have all the receipts. We'll keep collecting it. In my view, stay strong. Do not cave. Do not give the Democrats what they are looking for, and continue showing up every single day trying to find solutions, trying to propose solutions, voting to keep the government open. And I think at some point, there's not going to be any good faith left for the Democrat Party. And really, what's the alternative? Giving them everything they want? Giving them their talking points on a silver platter? Is that going to be any better? Of course not. It would give them the strength that they need in 2026, possibly into 2028. And then, of course, comes the end of the filibuster, comes statehood for DC and Puerto Rico, massive fundamental changes to America's voting system, and essentially the actual loss of American democracy, the loss of the country. If you really think about it, it's an existential fight right now. And Democrats are playing dirty. They're playing frickin' dirty. You just have to hold the line. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.